Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome everyone, both those who are here in the auditorium and those who are following us through Nova SPE's social media. I hope all of you are enjoying this first edition of the Sports Talks, an event organized by the students of the Nova SPE football team. We will now start a panel discussion focusing on the role of marketing and technological innovations to the development of football as a business. My name is Rodrigo and I'm a press officer and content producer at the Portuguese FA. I will be moderating this event. During the next 60 minutes, we will hear from Nuno Mena, Territory Manager in Portugal, Spain and Latin America at Sports Alliance, Paulo Almeida, Chief Operating Officer at Seven Legend, and António Barreto Costa, Head of Marketing and Communication at Estoril, Praia. Just to know better our guests, Nuno Mena has been working in sports for the past 12 years and could follow some of the most relevant and important transformations in the industry, especially regarding all the data-driven marketing and commercial strategies. Sports Alliance has the mission to personalize sports for every individual fan, current and future. Paulo Almeida started working since 2007, managing teams and the projects for some of the top brands in industries. Seven Legend is developing digital ecosystems for global brands, advertising agencies and startups. Finally, António Barreto Costa has a strongly professional curriculum as a marketing and events teacher, and he is in the sports industry since 15 years ago. In Estoril, Praia, he plans and manages all the campaigns of marketing and communication. I think it's done. So I'll try to open up the debate to the audience, but it depends on the time that we have left after the main discussion. However, the first question that I have is to our guests here in our audience. So who thinks that a fan's passion for a club or a national team is measurable? One person here. So with these clear answers, the first question that our panelists must be: if football is passion and if passion is not measurable, why do numbers and data have a central role in a digital strategy? Nuno Mena, can you start, please?
Yes, thank you very much, and to celebrate everybody on the panel, especially to António for the two recent titles. Congratulations. That's an interesting question, and although it's not measurable, it represents what football, in special, is different from other industries. That is the passion. That unique connection between a fan in this team or his league or his sport or his athlete, it's unique. No other industry has that. Health doesn't have it, fashion doesn't have it, any other kind of industry doesn't have it. So measuring that, measuring the commitment between a fan and the sports organization, it's only possible in sports. And that's what data gives us, is not only the amount of times you interact, the amount of times you convert yourself through buying something or to assisting a match or to interacting with any activity, but it represents the long-term connection of a fan. For instance, I give you our example. We have data of some clients of around 20 years. So we know since 98 or 2001, 2002, how many matches he attended, if he bought a shirt, if he opened an email, if he downloaded the app, and how many times he interacts. So that's measuring passion. That's measuring the connection between a fan and the sports organization.
Paulo, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I totally agree with what Nuno said, and it's the fan, or it's a customer at the end of the day. It's a customer, but in this industry, it's called a fan. Is totally different from other industries because. Let's say that we are buying a laptop. Nowadays, we can switch, we can change the brands. We select the best option for the moment that we are buying. In football, that doesn't happen. We will never see a fan of Benfica switching to Porto. That will never happen. So it's total. In football, we cannot measure passion, but we have several metrics that allows us to understand the level of engagement of that fan with the club. So, and like Nuno was.
And this is the key point.
This is definitely a key point. Definitely a key point. And like Nuno was saying, this is what companies like my company and Nuno's company and other companies look in the market and try to help the clubs to understand this and to understand their fans, basically. Because what we see with lots of clubs is that the clubs, they don't know their fans. And especially big clubs, that only a small percentage of those fans are really engaged with the club and are connected to the ecosystem of the club. Probably those fans, they have some information about them, but let's imagine a Real Madrid. Real Madrid, probably 95% of Real Madrid fans are not even in Spain. So, and they don't know many information about them. So that's one of the key points that companies like ours are trying to do in football industry.
António.
I totally agree, and we do that kind of measure. The passion, the emotions of football are really important, can help us a lot to grow. And we also do some measures of the kind of reaction that the fans have had during a match or before the match. We measure if they are positive or negative reactions. We have tools that can give us this kind of data, and it's very interesting to see that when we lost, we have an increase of the number of bad reactions, but the people continue to react. We continue to get that engagement. So it's very important to us measuring that, also to understand how can we manage the reaction, and how can we manage the community in social media. And we do that work all the weeks.
Okay, I think we can continue with António. Congratulations to Estoril for winning the second league championship and the Revelation Cup. Taça Revelação this week.
And the Revelation League 3 weeks ago.
And Revelation League, that's right. Do you think that understanding the identity of a club is essential to implement a good digital marketing strategy?
Of course. Of course. We work a lot in digital, but for us, digital, it's only tools that we use to communicate faster and in a more efficient way with our clusters, because the strategy should be the same that we use in outbound marketing, for example. We should be aligned with the same strategy that we communicate offline and online. And it's very important to know for who you are talking and the way that you should talk with those persons. And that it's one of the secrets of the engagement. It's the quality of the language that you use to communicate in different platforms.
Okay, we'll continue to talk about the fans. Nuno, can you tell us a bit more about your work and give us some examples of how it can help generate revenue to the clubs, to your clients?
So on a very simple way, basically we collect and we manage all the data that a sports organization has, from members, tickets, e-commerce information, mobile app users, access control from a stadium, everything that we can identify someone to an event or a transaction, meaning by transaction, click to open an email, that's a transaction. So after that, we collect and we manage all that data, we deduplicate, and we deliver back to the club a unique record with all the information from all different sources. From there, the club has a first picture of his followers. That might be someone that only engaged with the club once to buy a shirt, to offer someone to offer to other person. So for instance, we are seeing a lot on our 43 million records that we have. Around 30 to 33% are women, with more than 40 years old that buy one or two transactions per year. So if you imagine in 40 million, around 10 million are women that buy 2 pieces per year. It's something that usually clubs don't know. And as Paulo was referring, most of the sports organizations only know their members, only know the ones on the close circle. So it's all about knowing everyone who relates with you. And from there, we personalize the message. And that's the main key word that will take us along this data-driven journey. It's the personalization. It's delivering the right message, the right content to the right people at the right time. It's all about this kind of, and that connects with the language that António was just referring. It's adapting each club, each sports organizations to that person or that cluster of persons, and getting them to convert on our goal. So we start with collecting the data, engaging, delivering digital tools to unify the digital identity, to create a digital turnstile. If you think someone that is engaged with the club, usually a fan enters the stadium through the turnstile. But nowadays, most of the clubs have much more members or followers than the capacity of a stadium. So if I'm a fan of, imagine, Palmeiras, I'm not allowed, I can't go to a match of Palmeiras. So I have the digital turnstile that is their account, and I connect with the club and I engage with the club, and I receive from the other side the content, the right to see a match when it's allowed, of course, but I can see other kind of exclusive content bypassing that turnstile. So we offer all that, and then we enter the tools to help monetize through internal loyalty, to help what Paulo does, the digital tools to have better information, and with the digital tools, as Paulo gives to the clubs, to have even better commercial performance. And of course, at the end, when you have all this information, we enter the big money part, where is with brand and media advertising. But you have to do that, you have to walk that path that is starting collecting data. If you don't do that, you won't get here.
Talking with money, how money it costs, that kind of operation?
It's much more cheaper than you can imagine. It's much more cheaper than you can imagine. It's not a commodity. It's not a nice to have. It's something that you must have. It's like, for instance, if you yesterday I was giving some examples to some students, but all the clubs invest amount of money, huge amount of money,
just to have an idea.
Every year in scouting, for instance. But it can start between, I don't know, 5,000 euros to 100,000 euros per year to start. Depends on the club, the organization, what kind of services we'll have. But it's affordable to have a club. We work with Premiership or Champions League finalist clubs, or with Division 4 clubs. So it's adaptive to each club.
Thank you. Paulo.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Feel free to
interrupt. I think that more important than that, what it costs, what the investment is how much it will cost you if you don't make that investment.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's the most important question that football clubs need to do. It's not how much I need to invest; it's how much it will cost me if I don't make this investment. So
I'll try to ask António if this idea is correct, and what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, this idea is correct. Of course, that sometimes we don't have the budget for this kind of tools, and we try to find in the market other tools that don't do the same, but do almost the same with low costs, and mostly of the times with more time invested by the human resources that are operating the system.
I'm asking because I think that the clubs have to prioritize the things, and I think maybe the pandemic accelerate this kind of process.
Yeah, the pandemic was a bad situation to us. I don't want to talk too much about that because in next panel, our CEO, I think that he will talk a little bit about that and about our strategy. But we had a huge cost a huge cut in our budget in last year, almost 40%, and we have to manage with that, keep with the professional structure. Because the Estoril never had other vision of what should be the structure of the club, because we always believe that sooner or later we will be back to the first league, and the investment in the structure, we keep it. But we have to make some cuts in some things that we need to do. For example, a little bit of the history of Estoril Praia SAD, because we are a sports society, a sports company, that was property of a Brazilian company 2 years ago. And the philosophy of this company doesn't matter what happened outside of the 4 lanes, outside of the pitch, just what happened inside. Because the marketing goal was selling players, continue to be selling players. But now with the new administration, the focus is more also what happened outside of the pitch. When we start working in Estoril, we didn't have a database with fans contacts, for example. The tickets that we sold was in the tickets office with no registration. And we start to doing that work. First of all, try to have an online system to sell tickets and to collect leads, because having leads, it's the secret of sports clubs to get more sponsors and to get better sponsors, to increase the capacity of communication with the sponsors, with the supporters. It's very important to the sponsor, and we try to do that work. In the middle of last season, we had this pandemic situation that didn't allow us to test the second system that we were implementing, that it's giving free Wi-Fi to everybody at the stadium with the registration in our platform. And what we try to do to collect this kind of leads, we do some call to action in social media, giveaways, but it's very important to us have this kind of leads and know how to work with that kind of leads. That Nuno was saying, know when the person opened the email, how many times he opened the email, if he click on a link or not, if the link goes to spam. There is kind of data that it's very important to us to understand if the message that we are trying to pass, it's being delivered. And before we release a newsletter or an email campaign, we do all the time the test A/B with 2 different messages to understand which message is more important for the cluster that we are communicating.
Many work out of the pitch. Paulo, what was the biggest challenge brought to the work you developed by the pandemic?
Well, mostly the change that happened in football clubs. We work mostly with football clubs. We also work with other companies from other industries. But in football clubs, what we saw during the pandemic was that the main product that the football clubs have to sell, which is the match games, was stopped. So their main products couldn't be sold. So what we did with our clients and with our partners was to change the mindset to take that opportunity to change the mindset, because we need to keep engaging with the fans. And if we don't have match, how we are going to keep engaging with them? Because they were at home with nothing to do. So there was a huge opportunity to keep engaging with our fans. So basically, one of the main changes that we saw with our clients and that we work with our clients was to change the approach in terms of content production. So we took that opportunity to change the way that content is produced.
I'm sorry, the pandemic is an opportunity?
Definitely, definitely. And what we saw is that most of the clubs, because in their day-to-day business, they are very focused on the sports part of the club. In the next match, it's the football club. It's a company that never stops, because there's always the next game coming on. So the focus is always on the next match. And during the pandemic, everyone had the opportunity to stop, to think, and to design a new strategy. With focus, yeah. And to understand what were the main drivers of the business and what were the biggest opportunities that the football clubs had during that period. So we saw a lot of changes in the mindset of the club. We started seeing departments that were mostly focused on other areas to pivot to digital, because digital was the only way to interact and engage with fans. We saw the whole organization moving towards the online commerce. So we already had implemented in several clients, Portuguese Football Federation, FC Porto, Valencia, the e-commerce platform. But we saw that the attention for that revenue stream changed. So from one day to the other, everyone was focused on that point. So we saw that football clubs understood in that moment when the pandemic started that they were not seeing the picture like they should. So they saw that there were several opportunities that they were not looking to. So the mindset of football clubs changed during the pandemic. So those are the opportunities that we saw during the pandemic.
I can say that we increased the sales of jerseys in 71% during the pandemic period. Exactly. And why we had a strategy to sell jerseys this year that was about the message that Guilherme will talk later. But in January, our official store had to close, and we had to look for other opportunities for other marketplaces, and we find them, and we are with really good numbers in that marketplaces. Of course, that the sports results help us a lot to sell. Having good players help a lot to sell, but our numbers this year, also because the last year numbers were really bad, but we are increasing 71% jersey sales.
Yeah. Good. We'll talk about the results later. Nuno, the pandemic is an opportunity to the Sports Alliance?
As Paulo said, definitely. I think the clubs, as Paulo was saying, and I agree with everything, from one day to the other day, they lost their main revenue stream, that was match day, or should be the main revenue stream. Of course, TV rights for some clubs is the biggest, but the attention, and if you think that a club or a match lives from the fans, and we can have the example of a live broadcast that now have the sound of fans behind it. So it's the reason why we see a match, and we choose between one match or one league depending on the atmosphere, and everybody talks about the Premier League because of what? Of the fans, the atmosphere. Because nowadays it's as our league or any other league. So I think that the pandemic brought the attention of the importance of fans and knowing fans to the clubs, alongside digital tools. So I think those were the main two needs that clubs were aware. Okay, I need to have digital tools, and I need to know who are my fans. So it was definitely for us a big opportunity. In terms of results, we got around 20 new clients. So we grew from 120 to 141, something like that, in different sports, federations, different kinds of sports organizations, big ones, smaller ones, but all of them with the driver of, okay, I want to understand my information, I want to work my data as for a business purpose, not just for, okay, having a really interesting dashboard. No, I want to use it for business, and that's what data is for, and to feed digital, to feed commercial, to help bring in new sponsors. Everything that we are speaking here, if you want to, we have here the entire chain. We have a club, someone that manages data, and someone that uses that as the sales channel. So everything is here.
Okay, Paulo. Is the success of a digital marketing campaign measured by the way it reaches fans? In what way? Number of fans or impact it has precisely on fans?
Well, that's a complex question because...
3 questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Because basically, when we perform a marketing campaign, it's integrated in the bigger plan. So it's only a part of the strategy for the season or for the next years. And depending on the campaign, we use different metrics to measure. For instance, if we are performing a campaign to increase the ticket sales, of course, the metrics that we are going to use to understand the efficiency of the campaign are different from the one, let's say, that we want to increase only the fan base. So the metrics are different. So it really depends on the objective or the KPIs that we want to achieve with each marketing campaign. But the most important is that marketing campaigns should be integrated in a master plan. They need to be aligned with the other campaigns. For instance, one thing that is very important is to have a narrative, for every campaign to follow that narrative, which we see that happening in many clubs. Many clubs don't have a narrative, and it's very important to have the narrative to follow that narrative.
When you talk about a narrative, you mean to send a message.
Exactly. The message. What is the club? What we are as a club, and we see that many clubs don't understand what they are, so they don't have that narrative clear to the whole organization. So that's one of the most important things to have a strong narrative and to understand the club, understand the fans, and to interact with them in achieving their expectations, because that's a very important point. The expectations of fans nowadays are different from 10 years ago, because nowadays we compete with Netflix for attention of the customer, of the fan. We compete with Netflix, we compete with Uber, we compete with these new companies that exist in the market. So that's why I see that for a marketing director, the job, it's very complex nowadays, because they are competing with these huge companies for share of attention of customers / fans, and they don't have the means that these companies have. So,
António, do you feel the same?
I feel exactly the same. The campaigns that depend the goals that we want to achieve, and we choose different KPIs. But we are a small club, and we also try to get more brand awareness. It's one of our goals in all the campaigns. Sales campaigns, ticket sales campaigns, engagement campaigns, we looking also for brand awareness. We are trying also to change a little bit what is the vision of the club. We want to be more connected with the community, and we are using not only visible campaigns to do that, but we are working hard on SEO in all the articles that we write in our website to change a little bit the market position of Estoril. And the clubs can also use that.
To change the perception of the people?
Yeah, because Estoril, as you know, it's the club from Moreira, and we are the club of Cascais. And the brand Cascais, it's very important to us, and we are working hard to connect the brand Estoril with the brand Cascais. And that it's important to us. We do a lot of SEO work to do that, and we are having good numbers.
Nuno, what has changed in the supporters' needs this last decade, and how can you predict the next 10 years?
Well, predict the next 10 years will be hard, but what has changed basically it's the amount of interactions you now have with your fans. I think the level of not only amount of interactions but the quality of the interactions you have. So clubs definitely started to look at, as fans and the information as a real asset, as a real part of the business. It's not only about selling a membership or not only about selling one jersey or something like that. No, it's part of the long-term strategy. And to do that, as António was just saying, you need to create the awareness and you need to be in front of them almost every day, or the ideal amount of times to make them reach your goals. By selling a shirt, by renewing his membership, by coming to assisting a match, by connecting to a stream that you broadcast. Different fans have different needs, and the fans definitely, as Paulo was saying, are now we compete in sports industry with the share of time, the share of wallet. We will definitely have something that I think will happen at answering the second part of the question. It's a generation gap of live sports fans. The pandemic will definitely bring that. It was becoming a trend, and this last 14 months or 16 months will enhance that trend. Because if you think the generation up to 30, 35, that probably never went to a match or doesn't consume a football match too much, except of a small percentage of it, they are not allowed now to go to a match. Probably they will not be allowed until September, October of this year. So in the meanwhile, they consume Netflix, they consume esports, they consume any other kind of ways of entertainment. So live sports will be or either on a second screen, or the percentage of new attendees to a match will be very, very reduced. So that's one of the things that I see that is happening in the future. The other, of course, is the continuous and more detailed level of personalization. And the capacity to measure everything that we'll do with different tools, not only with fans, but with sponsors and with fans with sponsors. So you will be able to measure who is exposed to a brand during a match. The clubs will be allowed to know that I was exposed, for instance, to Betan between 15 minutes during a match and 12 times on that match, that you were exposed 10 times for brand Cascais, Paulo was 15 times to other brand. That kind of level of information will become part of the business. And with that, a lot of things will change. The metrics you use for sponsorship will change. The fact that, for instance, the ads and the cookies are now changing will impact the way you work with sponsors. Cryptocurrency, NFTs, it's around everybody's speaking about it, will be part of not only about the business, but the ways you activate it, the ways you engage with fans. So I would see that. I would predict that the next 5 to 10 years will be very interesting and we'll have a lot of things happening very fast.
Yes, I would like to add just one thing, because I believe that in the next few years, what we, and when I say we, is we as a partner of Football Club, is to address and to understand the several moments of a football fan. For instance, when a football fan is on a match, is totally different. The way that we need to engage with them, that we need to interact with them, is totally different from a day a Wednesday morning. So we need to understand the customer. We need to understand the fan. We need to understand what he wants to get from the club at each point of his life, or let's say a week or month, and we need to address those opportunities. We need to understand that and implement strategies to address those opportunities. And another thing that Nuno was telling, and I totally agree, we are losing fans because there's a generation that simply doesn't go to football match. They don't care about football matches, and we need to understand why. And I believe that one of the reasons is the customer experience, because if we go to a football match nowadays, probably in 90% of the clubs, it's exactly the same that was 10 or 15 years ago. We go to the stadium, we watch the stadium, we sit on our seat, we watch the game, we go home. That's it. And we need to rethink the match experience, because and those are the path that we are working with our clubs, with our partners. For instance, we need to understand what the customer wants in terms of experience when arriving to the stadium. For instance, we launched a platform that is in FC Porto Stadium. It's also in Valencia, which is called Seat Delivery, that basically allows you to ask to buy food and drinks, even a jersey, and ask that to be delivered to your seat. So you don't need to go to the line. You don't need to wait in the line. You don't need to go to grab something to eat in the 15 minutes of break. We need to improve that experience. We need to improve the experience of going to a match. Otherwise, the new generations simply won't go to a match, because they expect a level of experience that football clubs, or most of the football clubs nowadays, cannot provide. So we need to rethink the whole customer experience, the whole customer journey when going to a football match.
Good. I'd like to talk a bit about social media. António, what kind of advantages and disadvantages do you see in social media for the communication of your first team?
Disadvantages, haters. That's the only one that I see. We have lots of
we had a boycott a few weeks ago. A boycott, international boycott in England.
But it was in the day that it was our match day with Casa Pia that we could win the title, and we didn't do any boycott because it was a very important day to us. And we decided to don't do, because I think the Portuguese Federation.
Yes.
So social media was a big help to us during this pandemic situation. Only for understand why we are investing more in Instagram than in Facebook or Twitter. It's about the vision that we have for the future of football and for the future of Estoril Praia. We know which people are in each social media, in each social media network, and we know that Facebook, it's people more old, and Instagram or TikTok are the young people. And we also know that we cannot change of club for Benfica to Porto or for Benfica to Estoril when you have 30. So we're trying to communicate with social media to the young people, for they know our values, for they connect with us, for they know that we exist. Of course, that sometimes in the past we use the message, okay, we are a good club, we have good values, everybody like us, you are from Sporting or from Benfica or from Oporto, but you could like us, come to our match. Now we are not doing that, because in our vision, we are a club from Cascais, and we are trying to connect to all the people that live in Cascais in the first way. And after we get that, we go to an internationalization or to other markets in Portugal. But during this pandemic period was the best way for we keep connect to the fans. We did live streaming to do interaction between the players and with the fans. We do a lots of work with Reels to create content, because content is very important in social media. The people doesn't like your profile, they like the content that you produce. The content, the storytelling that you put in each content, it's very important. And was the way that we keep connect with the fans. So sometimes when we don't have good results, we have our social media with more people that it's better New Year, but it's more the people that bet that are the haters when we get a bad result, because our supporters, they keep to support us.
But your actions always depends
of the result.
Of the result, yes.
In the plan that we have for the match day, winning, tie, or losing, we do the same plan, because we use social media to inform and to connect the people to our website, because in our opinion, our website, it's the only communication way that we have. Facebook, it's not ours. One day that Mark Zuckerberg wake up and say, let's close that, we lose everything. So our website, it's very important. And we are always trying to connect people to our website to get more information in website. We never give all the information in a social media. We just do it in one situation, that it's during the match. We do tweets with what happened in the match, and in the break time we do a first half resume of what happened.
Nuno, is social media the most efficient tool to get to know the supporters nowadays?
No, I would say no. António just mentioned 2 or 3 points. That is, social media are quite good for creating the awareness, quite good for managing part of the community, but as also António mentioned, it has other negatives. That is the fact that data isn't yours. So data isn't yours, and you don't know who's on the other side. Of course, you know, that is, you have generic profiles, but you don't know that if it is Nuno, António, Paulo, or Rodrigo. So you know that have some kind of profile on the other side. And even on the cases that you have bad comments or bad reactions, you are not allowed, or at least it's hard for you to respond and to try to convert that wrong reaction on a positive or a neutral reaction, on a neutral sentiment. At the same time, social media are quite a good way to convert those unknown followers and known followers, as António was just saying, that they drive to their web, and that's a very good way to do it. So that's why I was speaking just earlier about the digital turnstile, that is all about managing the digital identity. So you bring your digital identity from Facebook or other social media into the club's account, that is the club identity, your fan identity inside of the club. So, and of course, social media are, if you want to put it, the top part of the funnel. And then you start lowering and reducing the funnel until you get the known customer. So, of course, it has advantages in creating the audience and the awareness, but also it represents a lost opportunity to have your own data. Not lost opportunity, but you should use that opportunity to convert them into known people.
Paulo, what are the rules that you follow to choose a criteria for a social media plan for your clients?
Well, following up what Nuno and António were saying, I totally agree with what has been said. And one thing that is very important is that social media, when we of course we need to be in social media. That's no other way. It's where the fans are, so we need to be there. But we in social media we can't control the message, and our brand will be. It will be living with other brands, and the platform is not ours. We don't control the platform, we don't control the message, we don't control the comments, we don't control not even the data. So what we do as an agency, the strategy that we help our clients to do is to drive traffic from social media to the owned channels of the club, to the website, to the mobile app, to the e-commerce, to the ticketing, to all the channels that the club owns and that can control. Of course, social media, we need to be there, but I don't look to social media as the main key point of contact with fans. It's a point to drive fans to where we want to interact and engage with them, which is the club-owned platforms. Sorry, your question.
The question, yes. The question was, what are the rules that you follow to choose a criteria for a social media plan for your clients?
Well, the age of each social media. For instance, like António was saying, Facebook, we know that the profile type of someone that is using Facebook is different from TikTok. It's totally different. So we need to interact with our customers, knowing their profile and knowing what they expect. We don't produce a content for Facebook that is the same content for TikTok, for instance, because the audience is totally different. So we need to be...
But there are ethic rules, for instance.
Ethic rules like guidelines or something like that.
Yes.
Yes, of course. It depends on the club. It depends on clubs. For instance, we work with clubs that the guideline is not to reply to any comment. So that's the rule. That's the guideline. So we don't reply to any comment, even if it's good or if it's bad. We have other clients that the strategy is to reply to every comment or to at least to every question that is done through social media. So it really depends of the club, the country. It depends on the country because the fans from Portugal are different from the fans from Spain or from UK or from South America. It's totally different. So it really depends on the strategy of the club.
Question to everybody. Maybe António can start. Is this just the beginning of the digital transformation in the world of football?
I think so. For example, yesterday we saw a flash interview after the Sporting's match with an hologram. TV did it with 5G technology, and 5G will bring us a lot of opportunities. I don't know what will happen in 10 years, but I know that will be really different. I know that the interaction with the fan will change. We'll have huge change. For example, we are testing a system now for our last match. By the way, a couple of hours ago, the public in the stadiums was allowed for the last match day. The announce it's only for Liga NOS. I don't know if we are included. But when we saw, okay, we will get the title of second league, but we will not have our fans with us. Let's find ways to interact with the fans. And we do benchmark, of course. And what we find was a good way that NHL is doing, that it's the celebration cam. They have a celebration cam in the field with a video wall, and the player, when score the point, go celebrate with the fans. And we are testing that to the last match that we will have this year. And I think that situations like that will be often in the future. I don't know why, because I don't work in technology, but I'm with good expectations for the future.
It's a question of creativity.
Creativity and technology also,
and technology,
because you can be really creative. You can fulfill the stadium with the holograms, but if you don't have technology to do it in the daylight, it's not.
Of course. Paulo, this is just the beginning.
Yes, definitely. I think that this will never stop. We cannot preview what's going to happen in 10 years. It's impossible. We don't know. But what we know is that the sports industry needs to be ready to tackle everything that comes up. It needs to have the structure, the human resources, the tools, and the mindset to address every opportunity and every change in the market, because we are seeing many things are happening. For instance, the companies like Uber, Netflix, they are completely disrupting the market. So a football club needs to understand what these technology companies are doing and try to address those opportunities. It needs to be organized to be agile in changing, which is very difficult because most of football clubs we see many football clubs that have more than 100 years old, and it's very difficult to have a company that has this age to have a startup mindset. That's very, very difficult. But they need to have that mindset because they need to adapt quickly to what is happening in the market. And we don't know, we cannot prepare for the next 10 years, but we can prepare to understand what is happening in the market and react fast. So it's only beginning now.
Nuno, what's your vision?
Yeah, it's definitely the train has left the station, basically. So it will gain speed very fast. I think more than digital will be cultural transformation. One point that we didn't touch on this conversation, or at least we just touched very, very shortly, it's about the type of resources that you have in the clubs, human resources. And if you think that the students will be available to clubs and sports organizations in 2, 3, 5 years, we don't see most of the clubs or most of the sports organizations working, for instance, innovation, working, for instance, with startups, because startups generate speed, generate transformation, although 90% of them fail. But even those 90% will help bring something new to the others. And it's not about competing inside the industry, it's competing with other industries. So that part of the innovation, the part of having what I usually call, although the expression is not mine, a chief imagination, a chief business imagination, someone that looks at the business but also looks at technology and innovation in a club or a sports organization, either as a full-time person or a consultant, someone that brings new ideas and sees business and the operation, because it's not only about the business, it's not having data or having the right tools, is for instance knowing that you have every match, 5 minutes before the match starts, 50% of the people at the door, at the gate to enter. So you need to manage that. And how do you manage that? With technology. Making people come earlier, for instance, giving families an early discount or something different, as Paulo was saying about the match day experience. Okay, let's give something for families to come earlier, so the hardcore fans can enter the last minute before the match starts. So I will definitely think that it's a digital transformation, but also a cultural transformation with the human resources inside of that process.
So I think we have more or less 5 minutes. I don't know if...
I have a question.
We have a question, okay.
For Paulo. You work with several clients, big clubs. What are the solutions that you implement with them, and how does that impact their business?
Well, basically, what we have at Legend, we started to develop several years ago a digital ecosystem, a digital experience platform that is composed by several solutions. For instance, mobile app, the e-commerce, the website, the seat delivery. And what we do with our clients is that we implement that solutions, and that solution basically gives them the capability to change the business. For instance, if we are talking about seat delivery, for instance, we implemented that before the pandemic, but now it makes even more sense because we don't want people to be online. So we don't want 40,000 people to leave the stadium to go in the break to the bars and make a line, because it's not safe. So the solutions that we implement within our clients allows them to streamline the transformation, because basically we are modernizing the whole technology, the whole tools that the clubs use to manage their business. So this allows them to streamline transformation, and of course that impacts several aspects of the club. Let me give you an example for context. When the pandemic started in March, April, everyone was at home. But football clubs, most of them had sponsorship deals signed with sponsors, and those sponsorship deals are based on KPIs, and those KPIs, many of them are related to match day. And for the clubs to mitigate the losses, what we helped them to do was to give visibility to those sponsors through digital channels. And that allowed them to basically to fulfill the contracts that were in place and that were initially thought to be fulfilled in match day. And we helped them to mitigate the loss of revenue. So basically, the solution that we have has impact in different aspects of the club in different areas of business.
I'll ask one last question for our three panelists, because I think it's important. What are the qualities that someone who wants to work in the digital football industry must have, António?
Good question. First of all, for working sport, you have to learn to lose. I remember that one of the things that I learned when I get to start in marketing was a Kotler sentence that someone in a conference asked to Kotler with his age why he continued to work in marketing. And he answered, because in marketing you never win. And to work in sports, you have to be prepared to lose. And you have to be prepared to adjust your campaigns to a winning or losing situations. And even if you are winning, someday you will lose, and you will have to deal with that. But it's very important also to be time, because we work 24/7, and it's the small clubs like Estoril. We don't have a huge budget to invest in marketing. We have other priorities, and I think that it's except 3, 4, 5 clubs in Portugal, all the marketing departments of the other clubs have 1, 2, maximum 3 persons. So we have to, that person has to have a good knowledge of sports industry and a 360 vision of sport, what sport is, and what is the kind of emotions that the fans are looking for when they connect to us. Because in the end of the day, the important of the marketing, it's the people. We work for the people, and we have to understand the people. So that kind of knowledge, know really well the market, it's very important.
Nuno.
Yeah, António mentioned a few characteristics. I would complement with the capacity and be available to learn everything. So forget what you are learning right now in university, because it won't make any difference. No, I'm joking. But you have to be open to learn when you enter the sports industry. You have to be resilient. Keep growing your network, as Pedro Brink and André Siab were just saying before. I think it's very, very important. Be aware of what is happening around. Don't be. Of course, you would have to be focused on your job, but look what is happening on the other business, on the other industries around your sports organization. And of course, it's a learning process. You have to be very resilient when you work in sports. As António was saying, you never win. Most of the time you lose, so you need to celebrate the times you win.
And last but not least?
I will say 2 things. The first one is you need to understand football, because there are details in football world that if you don't comprehend them, you won't perform well. For instance, let's say a social media manager, he needs to understand, for instance, if a player performs bad, he shouldn't have that player in highlighting that player in social media, for instance. So he needs to understand football. And the second one is, don't start by a football world. And this may be a little bit controversial, but what I want to say with this is that it's important to work in other industries and bring that knowledge to football world. Because most of the clubs, I'm not saying that all the clubs, many football clubs, they don't have, they are not managed like other companies that are really business oriented. For instance, if someone work, let's say a Fnac or McDonald's or companies like that, they are business driven. So the main focus is the business. In football industry, no, is not. And we need to bring that knowledge to the football world. So the thing that I would recommend is don't start by football world.
Okay, interesting. I hope all of you enjoyed this session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I wish you all the luck in your professional lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.